You are listening to the 4-Phase Cycle Podcast with your hosts, Megan and Alex of Zesty Ginger. If you're looking to naturally balance hormones and learn how to work with your body instead of against it, you have come to the right place. As a duo of an integrative MD and a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, we use the 4 phases of the feminine cycle in combination with functional lab work to transform the lives of the women we work with. Just a quick reminder though, this information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your own doctor before making changes. Ready to take control of your health? Let's get started.
Hi ladies, Dr. Alex here. I am back to do this Podclass with you. This is Podclass number 3, and we are going to talk about DHEA, which translates roughly to energy levels and our adrenal reserves. So that is a super fun topic, and as you can imagine, it relates to a lot of things that you probably care a whole lot about in terms of your life, because DHEA helps us regulate our energy levels, the way that we approach like productivity, creativity. We know a lot of you are super high functioning ladies who are getting after things in the world. You're building businesses, you're starting new careers, you are creating families and building things with them. Like, you are just complete badasses, basically. So with that, a lot of you care about optimizing your health so that you are as energetic and creative, productive as you can possibly be. And DHEA is, for me at least, a fundamental part of the discussion and how I think about hormone health and adrenal health. So and again, this is me talking from my personal experience with looking at so many Dutch tests and, my experience with infertility and medical school and all of that. But basically, DHEA, the way that I translate it as, it is our fuel gauge for our adrenal reserves. Right? So that is like saying that's the gas tank in a car for your adrenals. So how much fuel are you making? And I was joking with someone I was talking to that I should probably it would make more sense as an analogy as an electric car that has the option to put gas in, because that's essentially what's happening in the body when the adrenals have good reserve and good energy reserve, and things are good. Generally, it will make its own fuel. It will make its own DHEA, right? So DHEA is a kind of a base hormone or a base compound that goes on to turn into lots of other things. And that's why kind of its presence and its creation helps me figure out how much the body's kind of gearing up to make and how tanked up it is and able to do so. And so that's why the DHEA, when it tells us how much fuel there is in our adrenal tank, then there are, especially on functional tests like the Dutch, for the dial, there are ranges for your age. So depending on which age range you fall into, there's also a range of normal DHEA as set by scientists, So generally the trend is that young people have the most amount of DHEA. Generally we're talking about adults, right? Young adults have the highest, and then older adults have the lowest. And there's a general trend, and there's generally an agreed upon lower limit where it's question if people aren't feeling good, then people are not comfortable leaving it that low. So there is a lower limit. However, it is a full spectrum of normal for DHEA to decrease as we age. That being said, we still want to fall within a certain range at any given time, when we're looking at numbers. And so now you may be asking, like, well, why do I actually care about what DHEA is doing besides adrenal health, right? And what it helps translate into, and it's fascinating to have seen a lot of people between Megan and I, and also when I talk to providers, when I do consultations, and how much DHEA status really, just talking to other providers, of course, I'm not saying this is like a study that I did, but the correlation between someone's DHEA levels and how they actually behave in person. So high DHEA people, they will have, symptoms that they come in with and say, I'm fatigued, or I don't feel like I'm getting through my day well, or I really have an energy dip in the afternoon and I want to reach for sugar and all of that, or salty snacks or whatever it is. And then, but really when the provider kind of like probes into what they actually do in their life, they're generally really busy people who have a lot going on. So they're active, hobbies, things like this. When people have low DHEA, or people who used to have high DHEA and then they burned out, when they come in, what they say is that they're like, I get through my day until I can go sit down, and that is pretty much what I do. Right? And you probably either have been or know of somebody who's like that, right? And so that's a general pattern for DHEA. So knowing that correlation as we listen to someone, or as a provider is listening to someone, which of course is why it's so important that they do so, then that sort of correlation can help us figure out, like, where would someone's baseline DHEA, where would it be? Are they saying, I used to be super high functioning and now I'm not? That to me has a different story, that I'm looking for a certain result on DHEA, and what that may clue me into what it represents for their adrenal health, right? So this is where the things that Megan and I talk about with, like, vitamin C, getting whole food vitamin C, and magnesium, and bone broth, and collagen peptides, and all of Himalayan pink salt, that kind of stuff that we talk about, is the basis of some good adrenal support that we can do through food that helps our body continue to create this fuel that's DHEA. So that's where when we talk through food and some of those things, you'll see in the background we're actually focusing on things like that to help with problems that stem from this sort of issue. And so when someone takes DHEA, what they're essentially doing is, it's like you putting fuel into an electric car versus you plugging it in for it to charge, right? So that's just you tanking up the adrenals, but that's not necessarily helping the adrenals make DHEA on its own. That's why, supporting with DHEA, personally, if it makes sense, I like it, but and of course when it doesn't, it's not good. But when I like DHEA, but at the same time, I'm always asking, what's going on that the adrenals are so depleted, and how can we tank them back up? How much can we support? And that's where Megan and I harp over and over, you're going to see why we talk about the stuff we talk about as I go throughout all of this. But that's where we talk about mineral and nutrient density through food. And we talk about teas that are mineral dense, like nettle tea. You hear us talking about that. And all these sorts of ways that you see me making a lot of smoothies probably on Instagram. All of these things that we do really are addressing kind of the most fundamental root causes. And that's the game I want to be playing. As someone who's living in a female body, I'm like, I want my body to be set up to be optimized so that it can decide to self-regulate and it can initiate these things. I don't want to make it do anything. I don't want to, people are like, how can I cram my cortisol down? I'm like, whoa, what are you doing with that cortisol? Why is your body doing that in the first place? And where are you going? It's a deeper question, and unfortunately the answers aren't as sexy, because nourishing yourself with really good food and eating consistently throughout the day with no skipping meals, no going super low carb, no starving yourself, no nothing, no food shaming at all, and if you that's not that satisfying to talk about, to talk about nutrient density, and people want to talk about supplements to make things happen. But oh my God, the human body is amazing, like mind-blowing. Like we cannot even fathom getting as close to that as possible. So really my question is always, how can we support the body the most? How can we give it what it needs so that it can initiate the self-healing, it can initiate the normalization, it can signal appropriately to everything? You'll see how all of this starts to tie together, but that is, in our opinion, where the magic really is. So that's where we'll tie up our discussion of DHEA for now. We will loop back around to it when we talk about androgens and testosterone and stuff. However, that is it for today. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it so much. I really, really enjoy doing these with you. So thank you for joining me. Alrighty, I will catch you in the next podcast. I'll see you later. Thanks for stopping by for this podcast. Head on over to Instagram to hang out with us at zesty_ginger, or go to zestyginger.com to get in touch with us. Until next time.